Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Thursday, the 23rd of May. I am still in my office right now as I record this, but by the time you watch this, I will be on my way to Winnipeg to get on a flight to Calgary, the home of the Calgary Stampede, to go to what's called Provincial Synod. Now, for those of you who know Canadian terminology, our province is like our state in Canada. There's places where a geographical area that we live in. But in the church, we have provinces within the National Church of Canada. We have 4 provinces: the province of British Columbia and Yukon, province of Rupert's Land, the province of Ontario, and the province of Canada. Canada consists of 3 different dioceses in Newfoundland, Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, which are one diocese, the Diocese of Quebec, the Diocese of Montreal, and the Diocese of Fredericton, which is all of New Brunswick. It's kind of like Brandon, very specific, but it represents a big territory. Ontario has a whole pile like Niagara, Huron, Toronto, Moosonee, Algoma, Ontario, which is the area of Kingston and that area. I know I'm forgetting some. I apologize to those folks. The Diocese of Rupert's Land is the Diocese of Calgary, which is the sort of the bottom third of Alberta. The Diocese of Edmonton, which is the middle third of Alberta. The Diocese of Athabasca, which is the top third. And the Diocese of Saskatchewan, top third of Saskatchewan. Diocese of Saskatoon, middle third of Saskatchewan. Diocese of Capel, bottom third of Saskatchewan. And then Brandon, which is sort of the western half plus of Manitoba, and the Diocese of Rupert's Land, as opposed to the province of Rupert's Land, which is the Winnipegan area, sort of a bump out of Manitoba on the Ontario side, and the spiritual ministries of Mishamaquish, and also the Arctic, which is like all of Northwest Territories, Inuit, parts of Labrador, I believe, and maybe parts of Northern Ontario as well. And then BC and Yukon is, I never get this right. There's Kamloops is in there. Obviously, the Yukon territory is there. Basically all of British Columbia, and there are many dioceses. So we gather as a general synod once every 3 years, every triennium, where members from every diocese across the country come together to talk about the national church and who we are and what we're doing, what we're called by God to do. But every couple of years, we also gather as a province. So this weekend, starting today and I'll come back on Sunday, we are gathering in the Diocese of Calgary, in Calgary proper. I believe we're at the University of Calgary to gather, and we will gather as a province. So people from the Arctic, all the way as far east of Mishamaquish and Rupert's Land, Winnipeg area, and all the way west to the Rocky Mountains in Alberta, and everything sort of in between. And we will gather to talk about the work of the church and who we're called to be. We'll talk about our Indigenous spiritual ministries as well, and Sacred Circle, imagine. We're also going to talk about Rupert's Land and the name of our province. And I don't know off the top of my head, I haven't researched who Rupert was, but we have been doing a lot of work within the Anglican Church of Canada about decolonization and recognizing something very specific. What do our names say about us? So, for instance, it could be argued that maybe the Diocese of Brandon should be renamed, because that sort of indicates that the diocese I represent, the diocese over which I have oversight, is only like a city, a tiny little city at that, where actually I have oversight from all the way from Churchill up close to the Nunavut border, all the way down to the North Dakota border, on the sort of western half, 2/3 of Manitoba. So naming is important. And so my hunch is that Rupert probably wasn't a very kind person to our Indigenous ancestors. So we're doing some work around renaming the province of Rupert's Land. It may become Northern Lights or Aurora Borealis. And for those of you who know the area, who may have been paying attention, lately we've been seeing a lot of work being done around recognizing the importance of what names mean and what they're doing. And so our hope is that we will choose a name that will represent all of the peoples of our province, and give us a step forward in thinking about ourselves in a way that is inclusive and hope filled and filled with possibilities. Now, as we gather, we will make decisions on behalf of the church. We will probably make a few, um, you know, changes to our constitution, the rules of the church, and things like that. But we'll also spend a lot of time in prayer and in something called gospel-based discipleship, which I think I've spoken about before. And Robin, if you're watching, I do have a book for you, and I am going to send it to you. I promise. I will. I've got a couple things I have to send out, and I've been remiss as we've been moving. But gospel-based discipleship is this incredible way of sharing the gospel, of reading the gospel, and listening for Jesus' words, listening for how God is calling us to work. And it's a gentle way without having anybody have to worry about being a public speaker or being a Bible scholar, to be able to do Bible study and to really think about how God is moving in our lives. And part of the beauty of things like our synods, those gatherings of the people, the gatherings of the church, is that we spend a lot of time in prayer and listening for God's word. And we will be using gospel-based discipleship, my sense is, quite often. And it allows us, it bathes the atmosphere of our conversations in the gospel. And at any point, and the idea of gospel-based discipleship is at any point when anyone feels so called, or they feel like we're getting off track, or we're getting frustrated, or we're getting angry with each other, they can call for the gospel to be read again. And that brings everybody back to the center. It brings us back to what we're doing, why we're here, why we have been called together. The province, we have all of these different dioceses who come together to celebrate who we are as church. The purpose we do that is a little bit for us to have fellowship, to come together, to share our stories. But it's also to be uplifted. It's to be filled up and nourished with the gospel, to be encouraged by one another, to hear the stories of what other people are doing, so we might take their stories back with us to share with the people that we know and love. But also that our stories may be shared with others as well. Because that is essentially what the Christian faith is about. It's about the sharing of faith stories. It's about the idea that we don't do this by ourselves. And the coming together of a synod, of the body of the church, to make decisions, to pray together, to discern where God is calling us to do, allows us to do just that. To come back to the center, to come back to Christ and say, here I am, here we are, and here you are. Help us to be all that you're calling us to be. And when we do that well, when we do that gently, when we do it intentionally, then the church is living up to all of the things that God can expect and should expect of us as church. So I ask that for your prayers as Synod happens, and I apologize that there won't be a church at home on Friday. I will do my level best to make sure there is one for Monday. But this one today, you're getting it only if you subscribe, or only have to wait till Monday to see it, because I'm on a plane by the time you see this, flying west to Calgary, which was about 3.5 hours from where I used to live in Wainwright. Seems ironic, but I will try to put up a gospel on the go for Sunday for those of you who are subscribers to the two channels, and I will be back on Monday to share with you and to celebrate what it is to be a child of God, a follower of Jesus Christ, and a believer that the Holy Spirit does call us to work together to serve the world. God bless you. Please pray for all of us who are gathered in Calgary, that we might have good times, good weather, good prayer. We might make good decisions, and the right people will be chosen to do the jobs that they're called upon to do. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless you, and I will see you again on Monday or Sunday for Gospel on the Go. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.